Let me resume the recording. Okay, so I think we're all good to go. So welcome everyone to the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light with myself, SomaARah, and guests this evening is Stella Fairbairn, who's an amazing guest. And I'm going to hold off introducing her and reading her bio just for a second. And I'm going to play you something produced by herself. So, and I'm going to share the screen if I can work out the technology.
Thank you for playing that. I hadn't seen that for a while. It's like the divine plan in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it is. And I was watching it just before, you know, about half an hour ago, and it really made me cry. So, yeah. It's okay. So welcome everyone. This evening we have Stella Fairbairn, who is just an amazing woman. So Stella, if you could just do a brief introduction. I know that you're, I believe that you're a light worker, and I also believe that, and I think I could be wrong, but are you also a, do you channel light language? I know that you're a singer. I know that you're an amazing singer.
All of the above. I think, yeah, I think, put it this way, on this timeline, and the old timeline, should we say, that we're moving from, I spent 25 years in goddess training for this time. So I'm kind of holding codes, if you like, that can access all areas. And, you know, one of the recent things we've just done is bring, you know, the essence of the army of God to the planet, because we're in a massive battle right now. For those that can see into the unseen worlds, you know, we are in a spiritual war, there is no doubt. And what's being revealed, I guess, to everybody at the moment is the level of deception and duping that we've all had to go through to get here, you know, to get to this point in time. So yes, I'm a sacred songstress and a singer. You know, that's my light language and my emanations of the heart out into the world. And I've done about 18, 19 releases now that you can find on my Bandcamp page. And there's all sorts of meditations and things like that. And so light language for me is an emanation of light codes that come through the voice. A lot of people anchor them down and draw them, don't they, if they see them and things like that. And the way I emanate those is through the voice. So I kind of get out of the way and I become an instrument of the divine will to come through and emanate those codes. And I've been doing that since I was 4. And then I kind of got, you know, shut down and went into mainstream education and all the rest of it. So
okay, so let's just slow down a bit, because I always find that you know, yeah, I always race forward as well when I'm doing interviews, but when I'm on the other side of it, when I'm the interviewee, I always think of like a million questions while people are speaking. So,
right.
So you were 4 years old, and where did you grow up?
I grew up in Northern Ireland. I was born in England. I was
Okay.
born in Cambridge, or just outside Cambridge. And when I think I was, before I was even 1 year old, my mother and father decided to relocate back to Northern Ireland, which is where my mother's from. And my father's Scottish, but he was also brought up in Northern Ireland from being a teenager. So Northern Ireland was really where all the grandparents were, and you know, the family. So they were living in England. They decided to go back, and so I was brought up in a place called Hollywood, which is just outside Belfast, and lived there. And yeah, I was locked in the bathroom, age 4, and I started to.
But you locked yourself into the bathroom, or
something happened to the lock and I couldn't get out. And I was only 4, so I was fiddling around, and then I was shouting, "Mummy!" And the E sound started to resonate in the tiles. And I was like, "Oh, goodness me, here's a new toy," you know. And I could see with the synesthesia, I could see all the colors, I could see the tones, I could see all the, you know, the forms of the sound. You know, it was like I suppose some people would say it was like a hallucinogenic experience, but it was a synesthesic experience, which is a rare phenomenon when people can actually experience sound as light. And the thing is about sound, it is light as well. It's just a different frequency band that we pick up differently with our human ears compared to our eyes. So yeah, that was kind of me being activated, I think, at some stage. And then it was all shut down. And then I ended up singing from the age of 15, professionally, 16.
And when you were 4 in the bathroom, did you know what was happening?
It seemed very natural. And I was loving it, but my mum was freaking out on the other side of the door, going, "What the heck's going on here? You know, what have we got?" And I'm doing all sorts of ancient chants and whatever was coming out of my voice at the time. So I think a lot of children at the age of 4 and 5 know who they are. And I think and I do feel and believe that there's full past life recall. There's all sorts of stuff going on. at that age. And then of course we get shut down, don't we, to fit in with our peers and to not be different, not be unique. We have to follow this, you know, everyone's the same narrative, don't we, going through education, which really kills creativity, and it kills part of the soul path, because it just halts it through the trauma of not being able to be yourself. You know, and trauma is a big problem on the planet, as you know, because trauma halts soul growth, and trauma, you know, really halts it halts the being from being the magnanimous soul that they are. It kind of shuts all the codes down and stops us from progressing in a soul plan and a soul path that we've chosen. So, you know, it really is planet trauma, this. I'm trying to supersede planet trauma.
Well, I have a question for you, Stella, to do with that. So, because for me, my perspective is, I guess, kind of the opposite. But I just want to, maybe let's go into that a bit. So when I was very traumatized as a child, with a lot of abuse and neglect and poverty, an alcoholic mother, and, you know, living in extreme poverty in Hackney in London. And then I was raped at the age of 13 and became pregnant, and just had, everything was chucked at me from a very young age. And then at the age of 12, I had, and this was before the rape, at the age of 12, I had an out-of-body experience with Jesus, where he came to me. And that's also something I wanted to get into as well for another reason. But so I was cracked open like an egg from a very early age. And like I was saying, when I was 12, I had an out-of-body experience with Jesus. And I also wanted to get into it for another reason, because there's quite a well-known channel, another channel for the Pleiadians, who I was on the phone to a couple of months ago, and I was telling her about my out-of-body experience. And she's well known as a Pleiadian channel, and I'm not going to mention her name. And I came away really questioning her, and I no longer believe in her. I won't mention her name because she's in the public eye. But she came away, she was saying to me on the phone that her instant ego kicked in. And she said to me, well, that connection to experience you had was, to me, sounds like false light. And I was like, no. And I didn't actually say it, but I was just kind of in shock of what she was saying, because she was saying, well, that's false light. And in my head, I was thinking, no, it's not. You know, it's absolutely not. And
well, you're having an out-of-body experience walking through a meadow with Jesus. Yeah, that kind of a scenario. Was she saying that was false light?
Well, yes, but I was in my bedroom, and I was on the verge of committing suicide. I mean, 5 minutes away from it. You know, I was deciding to take tablets and leave, and I just wanted out. And her ego kicked in, and she just assumed it was false light. And I think, you know, we were talking earlier, and I think that we have to be very careful, not careful, and maybe it's the wrong word, but very discerning. There's so much information on the planet at the moment, and a bombardment of, not even a bombardment, but there's so much information coming at us, even on a hourly rate, you know. And that's just through the internet, let alone media, because I don't watch media. But we need to be very discerning. We need to step back into our hearts and be very discerning with what is being shown to us. And so, because there's also a lot of maybe information that isn't 100% accurate. And we were talking about this earlier about the some things. So yeah, I'm just going to throw that open to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that through trauma comes some great gifts. It definitely activates gifts, because I didn't have it easy myself. I don't tend to go public with my private life, but, you know, I had my fair share of trauma as a child too. And what it activated in me was incredible creativity, spiritual gifts, psychic vision, ability to communicate with, what I would think are parts of myself, but exterior parts shining resonance back at me and healing me. I remember being very traumatized, and when I was about 8 or 9, and I would see myself lying down in the middle of my bedroom in a fetal position. And it was also almost like my room turned into a spaceship or a really ultraviolet type discotheque. It was like really high tech stuff, lights coming in. And there were 3 women standing above me with healing rays coming out of their hands. And I remember that as clear as day. It's not something, it wasn't a dream, or I was just in a different reality. I was in a multidimensional space, but I could sense it and feel it, even though I'm just lying in my room. So I do think that trauma does activate incredible gifts within the human and within the StarSeeds light workers, the whole community. But it does stall the codes being activated. And what I mean by codes is we all have a unique set of codes. And if you like, the controller overlords, whatever you want to call them, that have hijacked this planet for however many thousands of years, have the ability to see us coming in. And what I mean by that is they can re-loop our soul back. They see us going out, death certificate, boom, as a bond completed on your body and your soul has left. But then you come back in. You're getting what's called through a soul syntaxing situation, or that we live in reincarnation, as the Asian tradition would call it. But they see us coming in, and they do target beautiful beings. I was listening to a lady before. We were listening to you earlier as well, Soma, but she was saying that they couldn't break her. They tried through a program. Now, there's lots of different programs. There's the My Labs program, which is the dark military, through voice to skull programming, voice of God programming, which a lot of channelers are targeted with to spread misinformation. That's a big problem on the planet right now. And then we have poor, beautiful beings, who are put into these programs, these mind control programs, which do exist, and it's all coming out. It's all coming out thick and fast right now, like Monarch, MK Ultra, Paperclip, all that stuff from, the splitting the mind control to allow a program to be inserted that can control a being from a remote location through frequency, keywords, all that kind of stuff. So we know it exists. I have hundreds of clients that come to me with this type of programming and ask me to clear it, and to work with their light body systems and whatever. So, it's there, it's very real. I've heard too many testimonies to say that it's absolute rubbish and to be gaslighted anymore on these subjects. I think it's very important that people know that these programs exist. And also, there's incredible people out there with huge followings who are, they're talking false light. They're absolutely spreading false light, but they don't know it because they're probably a victim or a survivor themselves of these programs when they were 4 or 5 or 6 years old. And, if you don't know that it's happened to you and your trauma mind has locked it away, then, it's going to play out. And there's a lot of people in very high spiritual positions on the planet right now that are not talking the true light, because the true light is when you go through your heart. And when you open your heart, the true light is not the big bedazzling bling of the, StarSeed here and the, all the different star systems and whatever. It's about going through the heart into the inner universe. That's where everything is. That's where all the Pleiadians are for me. That's how I access their wisdom. And that true light is just like a little candle. It's so soft and glows. It's not the big pizzazzy bling, luciferic bling, I call it. The false light is the luciferic brilliance, the bedazzling, the diamonds, the big show lights and everything else. And at the end of the day, that beautiful cosmos that's behind you right now is accessed through the heart. And so that, for me, is the true light teachings of going through the heart and the ancient gateway, which I think you're going to play at the end of the show.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And it's funny because when I was getting ready for the interview, and sometimes I often actually think of it when I'm getting ready for the interview, making sure my hair looks half decent, making sure I've got some nice clothes on, making sure I've got makeup on and lipstick, and because I always wear red lipstick If when I can.
Thank you.
You know, so I don't always, sometimes I don't, but the majority of the time I've always got red lipstick on interviews. If I war paint, you know. And sometimes this thought comes to me when I'm preparing for getting ready for an interview, or during a talk, or a public speaking, or a teaching, or a reading, is this thought that I'd actually just want to go and be in the forest, barefoot, with dirty jeans and a ripped t-shirt and messy hair and no lipstick, and just be in the forest, rather than this show.
Yeah.
No, I just want to go and connect with Mother Earth and live in ripped jeans and a dirty t-shirt and messy hair and muddy toes, you know.
Welcome to my world. and that's lovely, because it's like, you know, it's like the resonance of Mother Nature is how we replenish ourselves, you know. That's our symbiotic relationship with her is such a holy trinity between Mother, Father, God connection, the sacred land of the human body. You know, in that Divine Sovereign video, we talk as the body of land, it's sacred land. And that's what it is. And the controllers have taken that off us by saying that we're dead at sea. You know, we're married to the beast of the sea, you know, the holy sea, all of that stuff. And it's a very, very long and deep conversation, which I'm sure we'll have afterwards about all of that. But it's like the sacred land wants to be on the earth, and our feet are such a representation of all our organs, aren't they, in that reflexology map. And when we get our toes dirty and we're walking on the beach or in the mud, you know, we're totally connected. We're disconnected when we're not getting that antenna. We're not being that antenna for Gaia. You know, we're like tuning forks or divining rods for her, for all that energy to come through. And as we walk on her barefoot, we bring all those cosmic energies through us to her. So we've kind of really lost our connection and been boxed in. And we look, we're in a box here, we're on a box on the computer, we're in a boxy room. It's like everything is designed to shut us off.
Yeah.
And that natural connection.
Yeah. And there's so much I need to say and share and ask you. And so I was shown, I'm a channel for the Pleiadians, and I have been since 2009, when I left my husband in London and moved to Lewisburg in the west coast of Ireland, you know, Westport. And it was a beautiful place, Stella, really amazing. It was rural, it was in the middle of nowhere, just on the beach. I had a house like 2 minutes from the beach, 2 minutes walk, literally. And I'd already started to channel rights when I was with my husband, but I didn't know where it was coming from. I just knew it was in such a bad space within the marriage, and I was really in a box. And it was to the extreme, actually, because I couldn't walk because I had a bad back, and I ended up bedridden for about a year. And then I started to, I was, at some point I was doing a Reiki course. I think I'd already done it, and my Reiki teacher would come in and give me healing. And he said to me, have you explored the past life with your husband? And I hadn't, but my back was related to a past life with my husband. So eventually I literally crawled out of the place and went to stay with my aunt in Castlebar, because my mum's family is Irish. So so I've got very strong Irish ancestry roots. But anyway, so I literally crawled out of the flat, and I couldn't stand up. My body wouldn't support, my back wouldn't support my body. It didn't have the strength. And that was all tied into, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but that was all tied into my husband and a past life where it hadn't been a good connection with him. So I literally crawled out of the flat because my body couldn't stand up. And I took the coach from London, Victoria, and there was some travelers on the coach that were sat at the back, And I said to them, please, can I lay down? Can you move? Can I, because I can't sit straight for 16 hours, whatever it is. And they said, no, we're not moving. So I was like, okay. So I went and sat back and thought, what the fuck do I do? And I had very little money. I think I had 20 euros on me. And I gave it to them. I said, please move. I need to lie down, because I just couldn't sit in that position for the 16 hours. So they took it and they moved. And I was able to lay down. So I lay down and I travelled to Ireland that way. And then within a month, I'd gone from not being able to stand up and walk to being on a Zimmer frame. And then I went to crutches, and then I gradually, but over the period of a month, I suddenly got very better in a very short space of time after a year of not being able to support my body. And this is, and one of the reasons I think I'm mentioning this is because often our dis-ease is connected to past life. Well, for me it was anyway. For me it definitely was. But I know I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry, Stella. But one of the things I wanted to say was that, so I ended up in Lewisburg, and I'd already began to channel right, and I didn't know where it was coming from. But so I ended up in Lewisburg in a beautiful house. I just wanted to heal from everything that I'd gone through. So, and I wanted space. So there were other events involved, but basically I ended up just opening up. I was in the middle of nowhere, just opened up. No TV, no concrete, no media, no anything outside, really. Just a beautiful space, and me channeling the Pleiadians. And that was where I wrote my first book. But I think it was also to do with the space, with the land of where I was. I really felt and had experiences there that the Pleiadians had walked that land before, I guess. And also that there was a big connection to that area of land and Atlantis. And also,
God, yeah, the whole island.
I know
the whole island. You know, it's
And also one thing I'll mention, and then I'll shut up and give you the floor, is that so one of the things, so I've been channeling since 2009. But I then began to have memories of having connected to the Pleiadians as a child through trauma, through leaving my body. So that's really what I mean but I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten that I hadn't forgotten the abuse. I'd always remembered that. Sometimes, there are still memories I have where I haven't remembered yet, hopefully. But, so that's really what I mean when I say it cracked me open like an egg. But going back to the channeling, so 2009, and then the targeting as well. So they've shown me and told me and given me images where they've shown me our true history and where we really came from, and my personal mission as well. But that also that StarSeeds have been hugely targeted.
Oh God, yeah.
But hugely targeted, but to the point where. And I'd really like you to share this with our audience as well. So I'll just continue for a minute. But so they know that where we come from. They know who we are before we even know. Before we even wake up. Yeah. And that is both the positive ET energy and the negative ET energy, which is why we get traumatized as children, because they know who we are as children even before we know who we are, because many of StarSeeds do remember as children, but also a lot of us remember as adults. Not all StarSeeds remember that they're StarSeeds as children. Sometimes it's in adulthood that they remember. But anyway, we get targeted as StarSeeds by the negative and the positive, who know who we are even before we get here. So they often traumatize us as children to put us off the path. And sometimes the trauma doesn't do that to us. Sometimes it opens us up to more awareness, more insight, more clairvoyance, more of our own innate ability to who we are and where we came from and why we're here.
Yeah, for sure.
So over to you, Stella.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You know, it's like they definitely see us before we know who we are. And oftentimes we're not told who we are until we're old enough and mature enough to handle it. And that's done for our protection and our safety as well. You know, it's only really over the last 3 years I've begun to see the codes and the energy streams that I'm holding and what I can do with those skills. But well, it's like we have unfavorable circumstances to come into. Oh, you've disappeared.
Oh, I'm still here, Stella.
Okay, darling. We have unfavorable circumstances where we come in, I guess. But then the other ones, the camp that's watching us, say from the dark camp, you know, they're very predictable as well, because they can only move in straight lines. They can't actually create at all. So, you know, you've got to look at how our creativity has been exploited on this planet. Because if you like, Gaia is this jewel, you know, in the center of the universe. She's the heart of the universe. And she's connected to so many other systems in our solar system and beyond, you know, in this galactic part of the galaxy. So if you're a dark one and you can't create, you might think, well, there's a tasty planet, you know, they're all creators and we can't create anything. So let's go down there, let's hijack that lot, and we can like exploit that creativity all around the universe, which has been happening for a very long time. And what we're seeing right now in this shift is humanity saying, no more. We're not going to allow our creativity to be exploited like this and be harvested off us. And you know, the soul plan is to come here. I call it planet Earth the toughest mystery school in the universe, because you know, you come here with an emotional scale, you come into adverse circumstances where you're seen on entry, and depending on who you are, you're targeted, the life's targeted out of you. You know, I've been the TI pretty much all my life, as far as I can remember. In hindsight, when you look back, yeah, it was difficult. There was always someone, you know, trying to contract me or whatever into, you know, serving different things that weren't of the light. And there were always offers, you know, to contract in. And that's the thing about the dark camp, if you like, or the false light camp, is that they they can bypass free will by offering you a contract. So, for instance, look at logos. Look at corporate logos. The minute you drive through a drive-through burger place, will not mention, you know, you're driving through their logo, their symbol. So you're actually driving through and you're contracting with that energy, and you're saying, yes, I tacitly accept this through my silence. So what's happening right now is people are waking up to this consensual duping that we've all had. For instance, you know, when we're born, our parents within 2 weeks have to register our birth, and we're issued with a birth certificate. Now, that birth certificate is actually a proclamation that we are dead at sea, at the Holy See of the Vatican. We're dead at sea. A lot of stuff's coming out about this. You know, you can Google birth certificate, straw man, divine sovereignty, all this kind of stuff. You'll see how we've been owned lock, stock and barrel on the way in. So by the time we're 2 weeks old, our soul is already owned and our body is considered stock or chattel. And so it's very unfair circumstances that we come into. We're kind of locked, stock and barreled and packaged up, and off we go into our next trauma thing. And then we get to the point we think, wow, you know, what's going on here? What's happening? Why are we, you know, going through all these different hardships and initiations? And people think, well, that's the meaning of life, isn't it, to go through all of these things? And it's not. So coming back to Gaia and our reason for being here, our reason is to come and evolve the soul experience. And Gaia has always been a place for beings to come who are, you know, fairly advanced beings, to come and evolve the soul through an emotional scale and through the human body avatar. And that is being taken away from us through the AI. You know, the AI is another consciousness where, you know, our consciousness is being diverted off into what I would call a different pathway to do with the artificial intelligence. And we've got the divine team here on the planet saying, actually, you know what, there's the AI, which is a path, you know, that you have a free will choice to take if you want, or you can go for the DI, and the DI is divine intelligence. So that is where you are free of the technology. You've got your feet in the mud. You're going out there, you're coming online to source. But there's a few things you have to do that. You have to reclaim your divine sovereignty. You have to reclaim your land, which is your body temple, as sacred land, out of the beast of the sea. And that's what we saw in that video. Maybe if you post the link underneath, people can watch the whole thing. But it's a metaphor for really rescinding any contracts with Lucifer or the dark camp that have been duped upon us by proxy, normally by our parents, thinking that they've done the right thing. So there is documentation available that breaks those contracts. And I'm very honored to have brought that through with my beloved. That's part of our mission, is to free the souls from these contracts that don't serve us anymore, break out of the AI and come into the divine intelligence, the quantum field, to evolve the soul experience. That's what we're here to do.
Thanks, Stella. So you were saying that have you channeled then information to do with sovereignty?
Yes. Yeah, it's a divine instrument that's been brought to the planet, and it's kind of been channeled through blood, sweat, and tears of the experience of being here as a human, and seeing the level of gaslighting, seeing how devoid the planetary systems are of love, compassion, and empathy. You know, it's like a psychopathic grid, a narcissistic grid when you go into the systems of this planet. And it's about bringing the mother's heart and the mother's voice back to the planet, because the only one that can really thwart Satan is the mother. And Satan has done a very good job in trying to destroy the mother, including our planet, destroying the mother, destroying the family unit, and relegating the mother to a position where she's just privileged enough to look after her children, but she doesn't have the rights to protect them. And so, having had various experiences myself, it was like, enough is enough. The divine said, enough's enough. The planetary systems must have the mother's heart reinstated in them if they're going to work. If we're going to be able to progress as a planet with beings on it, we have to bring the mother's heart back. So Satan should be very worried right now, because the mother's back and she's really pissed off with him. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the energy right now of the mother. She's like, enough of this, you know, it has to go.
Yeah. And I was so before I share that, so how can people access your channeled information on the divine sovereignty? Is it something they can sign, or?
Yeah, basically there's a whole system that allows you to opt out, literally to opt out of the contract, of the birth certificate. But when you become a divine sovereign, you don't lose your status here on earth. You can still have your passport and your driving license. You can still operate here. You can be in this world, but not of it. But the thing is that there's lots of technicalities, which I'll not go into because they're too confusing. But in essence, you know, you can basically say, I'm here to reclaim my soul as sovereign, which it has always been, and I didn't know I was duped out of that privilege. So everyone has the right to reclaim it, and that kind of ends the game. It ends the game of being owned, duped, and deceived constantly. I'll give you a link to that, and you can put it underneath the video if you want to.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great, Stella. Thank you. And I know a lot of the audience would really appreciate that. And
well, you know, when we look at something like all the new medical laws that have been passed for this COVID-19, and we look at the Liverpool test centres right now, the military are going into the schools, and I know there's a lot of very upset parents. I even know of parents who have signed non-consensual forms for the flu vaccine and the HPV vaccine only to find out that their children have actually taken those in school. So there's definitely something rotten in Denmark, I would say. There's something not right. There's something going on that people need to be able to bring the power back into their hands, and this divine instrument allows everyone to do that. But it's like we all have to get together. We have to get together and do this
We
if
have
we want
to
make an informed consent choice. Because right now, under the new medical laws of COVID-19, we don't have a choice. We have a dictatorship that says this, 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 and this. And even, the wording has been changed. In the past, we were known as persons. And a person is not a sovereign. It's someone that's owned. It's a slave. And now the person in the word person has been reduced down to just the letter P in parenthesis, which means asylum seeker. So we've gone from being divine sovereigns to own slaves, and now we're asylum seekers in our own country. There's something very wrong with this.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's lots of little plays being played out and pandemic, but we need to stand back and view the bigger picture, because there is so much going on and it's all intertwined. It's all connected. So before I can move on to that, or we move on to that, maybe we should, because there is so much that we could talk about, and I know I'm talking very fast. I am sorry, but my energy's just been sky high the last couple of days. So, okay. So with the schooling and the injections and the
compulsory vaccinations or mandatory vaccinations, I suppose.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to say the word, but okay. So with the vaccinations, I've seen posts recently on Facebook where the army is coming into the UK and they're going to vaccinate the children at school, whether you consent or not.
That's right.
They have taken ownership of us, and they are deciding what is good and what isn't for our children. And they do not have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing, what I'm saying is that we get our children out of the schools now.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned this, because you have a situation 1st of September last, that's just gone. Was it like, are you going to send your kid back to school? And I had to take a view with my own daughter, because she has a lot of anxiety. She finds it very difficult. Through the anxiety, she has panic attacks and things like that. And just wearing a mask at school all day. She's 14.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very common now. These poor children have so much pressure on them. When you think about the amount of information that's available to us, and we're bombarded, and then they have their phones and their computers and everything, it's a lot so we try and keep her off that and get her into nature as much as we can. But, having said that, teens aren't the most cooperative. But basically, the contract is, if you have sent your children back to school, if you've actually sent their body into school as of the first term, they are now owned by the school regulations and the new laws. That is where you're at. And the only way that you can get out of that is to do a divine sovereign decree and name your children in it. And that will take you out of the contract, of the new contract. And that's under the new medical laws. We're now running under medical law. We're not running under, statutes and legislations. We're running under a new system, which is the medical law brought in by this COVID pandemic. So it's worth doing your research. It might be worth you doing a call, actually, with John, who is an absolute brain box and mastermind when it comes to all of this, and he can simplify a lot of that. But essentially, your children have become owned by the state, and they're owned by the state the minute they get a birth certificate anyway. That's how we all ended up lock, stock and barrel owned by Rome, at the end of the day. So, it's about freeing ourselves from that Roman grip. And it's been going on for a long time, as you know, centuries. And when you think about, gosh, sending my children to school under the new COVID laws, they can be detained if they're showing symptoms. all of this stuff. It's like, what is the agenda? What is going on that a parent would lose their rights to protect their own child?
It's barbaric. It's totally, it's Luciferian.
Well, there's no other word for it. Absolutely. It's dark, satanic stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
And this is the spiritual war we're in. And people are starting to wake up. They're starting to think, well, why would they detain my child? Why can't they just send them home and we'll self-isolate? Why would they want my children in an army truck being sent off to a detention center? And it's very worrying. It's very concerning. And it's giving too much power to people who really don't know what the heck's going on right now. And they don't, they have an agenda, but we certainly don't know the extent of what they want to do. But why would they do that? We need to be asking tough questions. Parents need to be asking very tough questions right now. And they need to be asking why, and go through the whole list of all these things. Why is my consent not valid? Why is my child going to be detained? Where are they going to go? Are social services or CPS involved? and everyone needs to be held to account on these questions. They need to ask these questions.
I think I think it's been a little bit, we've been drip fed. Drip fed is the wrong word, but we've gone into a totalitarian system, and it's been a little bit at a time, so we haven't noticed it really over the generations. It's only now that we're like, oh my god, what is going on?
Well, that's it. And I always say that the satanic agenda moves like a slow moving behemoth. It takes 50 years for them to do one thing in their list, and before you know it, half the generation before us is gone. They've disappeared off the planet, and we're the mature adults, and our kids are like, all of a sudden, in this generation after us, our children's generation, it's extremely rare to be straight. Everyone's got a different gender. There's 75 different genders and sexual preferences now as labels. And this is the thing I was talking about. It's like we're all being labeled and pigeonholed and streamlined. And, you only have to look at America. And right now you've got this big class war between blacks and whites, where you're either a white supremacist, if you think BLM's funded by George Soros and it's just been people being pitted against each other, or, whatever it is, it's like they're just creating separation. If we all came together, it would be game over everywhere. And I think you were saying this before, all the Buddhists, the Christians, the Catholics, the Muslims, everyone has to come together.
Yeah.
And the way that we can come together is by claiming our divine sovereignty, because we're all unique, part of the whole. And when we all come together and work together, you saw that word synergy, in the video. And that is when we are all in our creative prowess, working as a unique part of the whole together, we completely change this planet. We completely change all systems, and we completely change this from hell on earth to heaven on earth, which is the divine plan. It's the divine remit.
Thank you, Stella. And one of the images that was coming to me today was an image of a tree with all different branches. And it was the tree was to do with past lives and family, ancestry, and mum and granny and uncle and aunt and nephew and niece. And it was showing me how, and the message was showing me how that we are all, because I know that my granddad is in spirit, but I also know that he has been reborn into a new body, and yet he's still in spirit, because I'm still able to communicate with him. But I also know in my heart, I know that he's been reborn. And I was told this a few years ago. But so the spirit, what happens is the spirit, the soul, it divides into two, and it just keeps multiplying and dividing and multiplying and dividing. And that is how we now have 7+ billion people on the planet, where we started with a lot fewer,
Yeah, for sure. To have housing cases for these soul shards that keep coming back. Absolutely. You know, but we what humanity needs to do is stand up and say we're not a cash cow anymore. We're actually sovereign beings, and we get to make informed choices about how we're going to operate, what we do, when we do it, and how we do it. You know, that's the humanity has to grow a pair and stand up and literally say enough. You know, we're not going to be sold and re-syntaxed and over and over and over again. We have to stand up as the sovereign beings that we are, and the sovereignty is your soul, and your soul is here in this human avatar meat suit. But at the end of the day, it's our soul that never changes. It's timeless. You know, the casing might change, but you know, the eyes don't. The eyes don't change, and that's how you know, soul family. And I mean, when I look in your eyes, I think I know you. I just know you, Carol. I know you, Soma. You know, it's obvious to me.
Yeah. Well, the feeling's mutual, because I just want to talk and talk and talk to you. You know, and
we will, we will for sure. But there's a lot for humanity to realize right now, and I think there's a saying at the moment that's the buzzword in certain communities, and it's like, you can't tell people, you have to show them. And that's the thing, people have to see how bad this gets, and they have to see that there is great evil on the planet. You know, there was a great article I read the other day, and somebody was making a quote from that movie, and it said the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince the world that he didn't exist. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the shadow. We're dealing with the hidden. We're dealing with the one that wants to stay in the shadows. And right now, there's a huge spotlight coming from the heavens, and it's all over the planet, and there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to scurry off to. Everything is seen, and everything is being exposed, and quite rightly so, because you know the actual truth of what's been going on this planet, humanity probably could not get their heads around how evil certain parts of this planet are, and and the reason that this great evil has been able to get away with it is that people just wouldn't believe it. It's incomprehensible to a human heart and consciousness what great evil does.
it is unbelievable. It is
Totally.
unbelievable, even for me. Now, I do believe it, but there are certain things that I cannot watch. I just can't watch. I know they are real. I know they are happening, but I just can't bring myself to watch them, because I know that that energy would stay with me. It would make me physically sick for at least a couple of days or a week, physically sick. And the energy would stay with me. So I can't bring myself to watch things like that. I did in the beginning.
Well, that's interesting you mentioned, because that would mean you're a light worker, starseed. But there are a lot of light warriors here who can handle that, me included. And we can wade in. It's like we've got antibodies, or we've got an immunity to this stuff, where we can wade in and go, right, you lot, off you go, and we can, thank God there are beings on the planet that can do that, because it's needed right now. It's needed for the brave to stand up for the children of this earth. And a lot of light workers I know are the same. They can't go there because the energy stays with them and they feel heavy, or they can't cope. But the light warriors have an immunity, and they can go in and face the darkness head on and see all sorts of atrocities. So I do celebrate the light warriors that are here, thank God, because it's wonderful to have the light workers holding the light whilst the light warriors go down and literally excavate the lower astral that's on the planet. And as we do that, as we keep excavating the lower astral, it's like there's kickbacks, there's attacks and all the other stuff that happened. But the light warriors are very well equipped and armed to deal with that.
Can you just explain the difference between light workers and light warriors?
Well, I think it was the immunity to the darkness. The light warriors have the ability to walk through the fire, the holy hell fires, if you like, and go through and say, rescue a child or whatever it is. They can walk through the dark systems and it doesn't touch them. Or they can probably watch a horror movie and just think, what a load of rubbish, and turn it off and go on and do something else. Where if a light worker's watching a horror movie, it would probably stay with them for 2 weeks. The energy would be there. They would be like, oh, I can't handle it. So, there's a lot of people in the in the spiritual community that talk about, how the light warrior is, you know, they're focused too much on the dark and they're bringing the dark in and all this kind of stuff. And it's not the case. They're built for this job. They are built to go in and guerrilla style, go in and out, quick and easy job, and then off they go. Where the light worker is holding the light. You know, I see people saying, oh, the light workers aren't being real because they're all focused on the light and they're not looking at the shadow. And there is a bit of truth in that, where, you know, we do have to do that soul excavation. We do have to go into our own darkness, illuminate the darkness within us, the wounds, the traumas, and all that stuff. But, you know, it's not something that you want to focus on all the time, but it's a part of your own self, knowing yourself, you know, soul knowing. So, you know, it's like there are two camps for sure. There's the warriors that are just seasoned ones that have been doing this life after life, busting through those doors, those glass ceilings, and pushing everything, pushing the envelope right to the edge. They're the outsiders. And then you've got the light workers who are holding the light and allowing the light warriors to go in and do their work. So everyone has their place, you know, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, that's perfect, Stella. Thank you, darling. It was more for the audience, really. So there's a couple of things I really want to share with you, and maybe I should do it off camera, but what the hell, we're here. So when COVID kicked off, I was quite surprised, and I went to the garden and I channeled I connected with the Pleiadians, and I began to channel with them because I hadn't for a while. And they gave me whole downloads of information. One of the things they showed me is that there is two beams of, and this is back in February or whenever, there's two beams of light hitting the earth at the moment. One is positive and one is negative. And these beams of energy are going to intensify and increase, intensify and increase, and hugely, until the point it causes the earth to twist and pull apart. One goes into a higher frequency, a higher dimension, a higher vibration. The other will stay where it is, or it will drop into a lower frequency, a lower dimension, a lower awareness, a lower energy. The other thing I wanted to share is that they also said to me that everything happened at the time of Atlantis, where a large meteor hit the Earth, negative ET energy came in and overtook Atlanteans. Our Earth was knocked off its natural axis, and so the land shifted. Everything was knocked off its original blueprint, the Earth and us, and our DNA was changed, manipulated, dumbed down, and that we originally had 13 strands of DNA, not 12, 13.
Okay, yeah.
Or we're going into a time where we have 13 strands in the future.
Yes.
Now, that I really just wanted to share that with you during the interview this evening, and to get your thoughts on both of those things.
Well, it's really interesting, because what I see is, you know, what you're seeing is the pulling apart of polarity. So it's even more separation, you know, from this false light and say the true light, these beams of light. So instantly that to me is like, well, who would want the separation? You got to ask yourself, what camp wants that, right? Well, I think we know. So what I see is, as people stand up together as one being, as one heart, in unity consciousness, then we come into what's called a singularity of love. It's not a singularity of AI, it's a singularity of divine intelligence, where everyone has had the courage to stand up, because the illusion looks like it's going to get so bad that people are going to have to do something. And it's going to be everyone. No one is going to be left behind from this. Everyone's going to have something crop up, whether it's your children at school, whether it's getting a vaccination to travel, whatever it is, whatever civil liberty or right is going to be taken away, people have to stand together. And that is unity consciousness. And that's what I think we need to go into. And then going on to the 12 or 13 strand DNA, you know, I'm talking about this I'm doing my own mystery school. It's called the New Magdalene Codex. And it's literally about how we walk as love in the new timeline, how we how we utilize all the 144 qualities of divine love, and we become the walking avatars of divine love. You know, that is the divine intelligence, right? And so
when and where are you doing this, Stella?
I'm doing it online right now, and we're about halfway through.
Wow. Okay.
But it will all be recorded, and right now we're working on the 6th codex. There's 8 altogether, and we're talking about how the human DNA has been mined for its gold over the eons of time, and what trauma has done to our DNA is shut it down and dim it down. And what we need to be doing is working
and
with.
that's huge.
It is huge, because the controllers only have 10 strands, and they do not, because they're such a superior, haughty, narcissistic, psychopathic breed. They really don't want humans being superior to them. So what we're doing,
and we are.
Yeah, of course we are. We're built in the image of the creator, so of course we are. So basically, obviously, with deep humility, we need to be looking at our DNA, how we unpack the DNA that is, they say it's junk DNA, but it's not. It's a full spectrum human DNA, which is the divine creator that can manifest, right? We can manifest. We're manifestors. So actually, I have a picture on my wall of a sonic 12-strand DNA pattern up there, but I'll maybe explain that another time.
I think I saw that image on one of your videos.
Yes, yeah, you probably did. So what we need to do is replenish the body with noble metals like iridium, platinum, you know, ormus golds, all the, you know, we'll not go into all the nasty things, but there's a reason that you know, the dark ones do what they do to children. And that basically floods the pineal gland with light when they do awful things down below. And what that does is shut off your connection to source straight away. And then to get that back, we have to replenish the noble metals through the DNA. So I'm talking about all of this in these codices of light that are coming through, and it's how to walk in the new timeline. So how to walk in this unity consciousness grid that's been, now it's all over the planet. It's here. All we have to do is plug into it through love.
I guess that's what I was asking you, Stella, earlier, is how is it that people like me that were traumatized as children and broken open like eggs into the spiritual, because I would not have got through my childhood without the help of spirit, without the help of my granddad, without the help of the Pleiadians, without the help of Jesus, which happened. And it was the light. I know it was the light. So how, and I'd really take my hat off to children who've experienced trauma and they haven't had those experiences. I don't know how they get through it. I've no idea.
I think you know, I had trauma where I, you know, maybe I was 3 or 4 years old, and I remember walking through a meadow and Jesus was there and I was holding his hand. We were walking through flowers. He said, "Don't worry, it'll be all right. You know, it'll be fine." And yeah, I think severe trauma pushes you into spirit realm, and that's how you know you're protected. And that's the first time I've ever said that actually live on camera, but yeah, I've had that experience, and I'm sure many children have as well. And I heard of one woman who was dying in the shower. She just decided to go, and she was a woman when she, you know, slit herself open or whatever she was doing with the razor, and she fell down in the shower, and then Jesus was sitting in the shower with her with his legs bent and his arms folded around his knees, just going, "You know, you're not going to go, you've got to come back. I'm going to make sure that you're all right." You know, so there is a, as you say, there's a light program, and then there's a false light program, right? And where is the misinformation? Why would we associate with that beautiful, loving Christ energy, you know? And, you know, why is it always Jesus? Why is it one of the Christ, you know, energies, the masculine energy as well? So, you know, good questions to ask the Pleiadians next time you're doing a Q&A.
I did ask them that for a long time, Stella, and they said to me that Jesus was Pleiadian. He was Pleiadian. That is why I've had experiences with Jesus, and I'm a channel for the Pleiadians because they are one and the same energy.
Right.
You know, he was Pleiadian energy. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think that soul essence comes through many star systems. I think it, you know, it originates in another galaxy for sure. I feel that. And then I think it steps down, like you were saying, you know, from 2, we step down to 4, then 8, then 16, the soul sharding, which is why, you know, there are so many people in the spiritual community that believe they're Mary Magdalene right now, or Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, because what we have incarnating on the planet right now are 144,000 souls of that original outbreath of God. And they're here as God's army. They're here, you know, we're all part of that. You know what I mean? It's like we're all in that energy stream. So when people say to me, I'm Mary Magdalene, I think, oh God, you know, maybe if I had £1, I'd have 144 grand right now for all the time people tell me they're Mary Magdalene, because obviously I do the Magdalene codes and my Magdalene journeys and whatever. So it's like, you know, it's like we're here. We came, we incarnated for this time. They saw us coming in. They did as much damage as they could to us. They tried to destroy us. But the one thing that they forgot on the other camp is that you cannot destroy love.
Yeah, it's indestructible, indestructible. And there's probably another experience I'd like to share with you. A couple of months ago, I was in an altered space for about 3 or 4 days, not in a good space.
Okay.
But I was taken to the depths of the negative agenda's energy, and really was in that space. You know, I was almost like an air bubble in water, but I was a bubble of light surrounded by dark. And I never want to experience it again. I'm glad I did, but I never want to go there again. And I was surrounded by negative energy, like the likes of B. Jill Gates. So I was taken to the depths, and I was shown that they are void of the 98% void of love and light energy, and they have like 2 or 3% of you know, their soul essence. They're so far removed from the source that they may as well be soulless. So yeah, I'll just throwing that open there.
Well, there's quite a lot of soulless ones on the planet. And you know, there's there's technology, you know, that we could talk about for another 2 hours of what's going on here. But there's, you know, there are ones that are created outside of the genetic womb, shall we say. They're not birthed through a mother. And those organic humans are soulless. And there's about 2.7 billion of them on the planet right now. So it's quite an interesting thing, and it's something we've been working on in the higher to make sure that these beings do not get set off, shall we say. Yeah. Well, they're part of the AI, actually. They're actually part of the AI. So there's an AI infiltration of the human body, but they're not organically brought through the mother. They're grown in a bag, or whatever you want to call them, you know, Uncle Ben's. Like Uncle Ben's rice, isn't it? Boil in the bag stuff. So, you know, they're literally brought through a false womb. But that's going into way out there territory. I don't know whether we want to go into all of that. But yeah, you can go and research, you know, artificial organic clones, things like that. I think we'll be finding out more in the coming days. About all of this. A lot of truth tsunamis are going to start to hit the planet, and that's going to be very difficult, I think, for people. And what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up a Zoom group for once every fortnight, starting probably in 2 weeks, to come in and just be held. You know, as the truth hits the fan, which it will, like a tsunami, it's going to be very cognitively dissonant for a lot of people. Are going to find it hard to believe. They're going to find it very, very difficult to digest. And so we aim to provide a really lovely, safe, compassionate environment for people to come in and just be heard, you know.
That's great, Stella. I mean, I think that's so well needed. I've actually got told to do the same thing. So literally
Yeah.
last week, I
We
think
can
a
all
lot
do
of
it for
us.
all our networks and all our groups and everything else. And I'm completely off Facebook now. I have my own network. It's called the Divine Feminine Network. It's a lovely high vibe place for people to come and share whatever they want to share, uncensored, unfact checked. If they have a point of view or free speech, they're welcome and they're heard and witnessed, which is so important right now. So I've completely gone off Facebook and Instagram and all those things. I just feel my energy is so much better for not being on there.
I can imagine, because it really, I think Facebook do use negative technologies and AI and algorithms, but it's more than algorithms. It's they have some very dark technology. I believe they have some very dark.
Yeah,
technology.
it was originally set up by DARPA and the CIA, probably for now to find out who's coughing up about themselves, who's who. So I decided after their new terms of service on the 1st of October, I'm gone. So yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that they were. I've said that publicly before, that they were. I wasn't aware like you that they were set up by CIA and Harper. Was it Harper?
DARPA. I can't remember what it is. It's a research agency of the government in the USA. Yeah.
Okay. And are you? Because I was also told that there are going to be a bad weather hitting the west coast of Ireland and the west coast of the UK, like a tsunami hitting the west coast of Ireland and the west coast of the UK.
Oh yeah, I think that was to do with this November 2nd asteroid, wasn't it?
Okay, so that's
been handled. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We're there's a lot of, put it this way, guerrilla warfare light workers and light warriors out there who are working a lot of this stuff. And it's like, as soon as it gets flagged up, it gets dealt with. It's the stuff that we don't see that's the problem. So that's why we need fantastic oracles like yourself on the team going, okay, I've just had this bit of information, or I've had this or whatever. And there's so much help here right now that people really need to know that they should not go into fear. Everything that's playing out right now is a movie. And if you want to connect with the true light and the true source of everything and all that is, you literally come through the heart. So I think you were going to play the opening of the heart meditation, and that is the ancient gateway through into the divine truth. And I can send you some links, Carol.
Yes, please, Stella. Please send me all your links, and I will put everything onto the YouTube description page.
Brilliant.
So I know that you're pushed for time, but before we end the interview, and before I do go into play your open heart meditation, is there anything that you'd like to share with people?
Well, right now we're on a roller coaster, really, and the safe harbor is your heart. When you come into the truth of the deep knowing of your heart, there's nothing that anybody can tell you that you don't already know. And right now we're going through a huge shift. We all came for this. We were brave enough and mad enough and stupid.
Have we lost Stella? It looks like we've lost Stella. Stella, are you there? Stella? No, I think we've lost Stella. Okay, so I'm going to skip to opening of the heart meditation by Stella, and I do have permission to play this. So everyone, if you would like to get comfortable. And okay, let me see what's going on here. Do we have Stella? No, Stella is gone.
Oh, I'm back now.
You're back. Great, Stella.
Sorry, I got the feed was cut there for some reason. I don't know how much was heard and how much wasn't heard, but my parting message is really to learn to trust yourself, and trust your heart, trust your heart's wisdom, and to use your heart as a safe harbor, because love is what the heart is all about. and to bring in that pillar of source light, of protection from Mother, Father, God, that source energy, and to know that we've all got this. You know, it's a bad movie playing out. We're in a horror film right now, and very soon the end of the movie will come and humanity will rise.
Yeah.
And we will evolve. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Stella.
Oh, thank you for having me, Soma. Sorry, I keep calling you Carol.
No, it's okay. Either will do. I've been called a lot worse.
Well, thanks for having me. It's lovely, really lovely to be here and to share with you and your audience. And I'll put the links on. And I think we're going to have a chat after this, aren't we? So I'll just stop the camera.
Yeah.
And I'll mute until you come back. But thank you very much to everybody who's watching. It's lovely to be here. And thank you, beloved Soma.
Thank you, Stella. And I'd just like to say before we go, thank you so much for doing this with me, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and connect and speak and share and you know, just really connect. And I'm just in awe that you were able to do that today, really. And what else would I like to say? Please, will you come and do another interview with me?
Yes, I'd love to. Absolutely.
Great.
There's lots to talk about.
Yes. Perhaps we could get more into the Great Awakening.
Yes, for sure. That's much needed. Yeah. Into the superpowers, humanity's superpowers being restored to them.
Yes. Thank you, Stella. So I will play your opening of the heart meditation.
Okay.
And I'll share the screen and I will talk to you in a minute.
All right. Lots of love.
My love to you, darling.
Love to everyone. Bye-bye. and step into the flames. These are the flames of divine love that burn away all that is not love from your being. Feel these flames soothing and caressing you. Restoring you to your divine blueprint, which is love. Restoring you to the majesty of the divine soul being that you are. And now, just in front of you, you observe a beautiful pearl, a golden pearl, that is gently breathing with your heartbeat. And take a moment to step inside the pearl itself. And you are filled with the brilliant white light of spirit within. And this is the sacred stargate of the divinity of the soul embodied in the human heart. And breathe. And allow this beautiful white light to fill your entire being, every cell, every fiber of your being with the divine light. And now you observe a beautiful doorway, which is called the doorway of the deep knowing. And on the other side of this doorway contains all the wisdom of all the ages. And there is nothing else that I can tell you that you don't already know at the other side of this deep knowing of the heart, sacred doorway. And so gently open the door and walk through the threshold into the truth of who you are, which is the vast cosmos of the universe. It is the universal soul, and that is who you truly are. So just take a moment here to bathe in the wonder and the beauty and the majesty of the inner cosmos within. The nebulas, the stars, the galaxies, the suns, the planets. It's all you. sit in the majesty and the beauty and the divinity of your human heart, which has the greatest capacity to love in this entire universe. And so, having closed the door, bring all your insights and wisdoms and deep knowings into this divine space of the high heart and the golden pearl. And now step out into the flame of divine love in the center of the flower, in the garden of your heart. And smell the divine fragrances of all the qualities of divine love that are embodied in the flame and inside of you, beloved brother and sister. As we smell the qualities of compassion and grace and purity, praise, thankfulness and joy and divine love, for that is who you are. You are divine love embodied, and you are divinely loved. You are deeply, deeply lovable, and you are love itself. And when you feel ready, you make the journey from the heart back to the head, into the temporal realm. But remember to stay in your heart always. And so it is.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. So yeah, this is Soma ARah signing out for now. Please come and like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Carol Noonan. And I will see you all soon. My love to you all.